Welcome back, everyone. Alright, yesterday was a fun day. I hopped on a Zoom call to learn about what is next for World of Warcraft, and I also did an interview with Ian Hazzikostas that'll drop tomorrow. It was quite a day, so let's cover what 10.1 is, when content's coming out, and all the main features. I'll kick it off with dates and times, because a good patch ain't enough if it's too late, and we're certainly not having that problem. Patch 10.07, which is surprisingly content-stuffed, drops March 21st, just a few weeks. Between it and 10.05, I think we can clearly see the Blizzard are holding to the roadmap they published. Now, of course, we weren't told 10.1's release date, but we can assume that it will be about 2 months after 10.07, right? Or maybe just over. It'll also be either before or after, but not during the Diablo 4 launch. And also, if 10.2 is to fall within 2023, which it should given the roadmap, then 10.1 pretty much has to drop either late May or mid-June, which is absolute madness in terms of content cadence. And speaking of that, the last few weeks have been madness for us. I've got no sponsor, but instead, The Pale Beyond, our video game, literally developed just over there, of course, is out. We've had an amazing launch, and patch 1.3 just dropped today. Now, we've already killed the vast majority of bugs. Turns out those can crop up when you have a surprisingly underneath the hood, very complex game. And any minor bugs obviously will continue to squash those, but with the main bug fixing work done, now it's time for continued feature development. Patch 1.3 brings our initial revamp of the save load system. There are very cool aspects to how it's made, but I think we bit off a little bit more than we could chew in terms of how it was presented to people initially. So the TLDR is all your save files are unlocked on the tree. You can essentially rewind your run to past weeks, and you can use the control key to accelerate dialogue greatly, which of course will help with replayability. And obviously, if you know the other stuff about the load tree, after certain narrative stuff, then you know. So of course, if you'd like to support us, then buying The Pale Beyond, our narrative survival role-playing game on Steam, is the way to do that. Buying the game and leaving an honest review is the thing to do if you want to help out what we're doing here. The game has been a massive success, and because of that, we are fully focused on doing right by the, honestly, above expected support in the game. We're thinking about what we can do more, so we're not just like tweaking difficulty, we're also working on new difficulty mode stuff. Ultra-wide support, we're not doing just a portrait version, like Letterboxd, we're actually making new art assets so that ultra-wide is like true ultra-wide. By the way, it looks really awesome. So, there you go. We're also thinking about other nice plans for the future with Pale 2. With that said, you can have the link below. But let's go to 10.1. So, I've seen the end cinematic of patch 10.07, right? And basically, through our explorations in the Forbidden Reach in 10.07, just around the Isle, and also through the campaign of 10.07, we essentially learn of Deathwing's ultimate laboratory called ABERRUS. And looking at the art, ABERRUS certainly does visually seem to represent, or, have some similarities with old god-looking shapes. But anyway, in the cinematic, the remaining incarnates basically head to the Reach. They have some banter between themselves. They pick up what essentially seems to be the, hidden key needed to open up the front door of ABERRUS to go in and do their dastardly things. Now, they also did show these humanoid forms for the new incarnates. They were in the cinematic, and honestly, they just look cool as fuck. Yeah, so big win to the art team there. They actually seem like a real fun trio of bad guys. Now, this place, ABERRUS, is also where the Drakthir were made, along with whatever other madness Deathwing was trying to do. And ABERRUS is our new raid. It is inside the new zone of Zaralek Cavern. This zone has 3 subzones, volcanic, sulfur pools, and a crystalline cavern. Basically, a turbo deep home, and a cool thing I learned from Ian is, we just fly straight into it. There are no loading screens, so it's all seamless. And yes, we do fly into it. This is a new patch zone that will have flight with our dragon riding from day 1. Narratively, the 3 senior Black Dragons, Rathian, Abyssian, and Sibelian, seem to be leading us there, trying to deal with, obviously, Black Dragon history. It was hinted to me that we will really get a lot of lore. Then we've got the Sundered Flame, who are the villainous Drakthir, and their leader, they're also chasing down some of that Deathwing power. And of course, if you've read the lore books in PTR, then you'll certainly be asking the right questions about them. Okay, now that you've got the lay of the land for this patch, Let's talk features. Zaralek Cavern then, it's our new zone. It is a bit bigger than Zereth Mortis, and it can be entered from 3 points in the Isles: Thaldraszus, Azurspan, and Onaran Plains. And of course the big thing is the no loading screen. To tease my interview with Ian, he basically said that they had to solve some fun technical problems to basically have 2 floors within the game, and just ultimately it does mean it's a 100% seamless dragon riding experience. Now down there we will find the Jardine Elders, we'll find ABERRUS with its spooky looking art, and a host of other different creatures. And along with this zone does come a new renown track with the Nithin, who are these sort of like little mole men creatures, maybe a sort of primal kobold, who knows? But anyway, they are seemingly friends with the Drogbar, who will be making a return from Legion. Here we'll have snail races, Drogbar things to do, as well as treasure to hunt. Ian did talk about some other things in this zone. The main thing I'm excited about will be coming out of his mouth in the interview with him tomorrow. So, overall, looking pretty neat, looking like a slice of, yes, core WoW zone, but with a little bit of evolution as we've been seeing thus far. The raid then. Okay, the raid is called ABERRUS, the Shadowed Crucible. It is a 9-boss raid. And basically, it's Deathwing's most important laboratory. It's the place where he made the Drakthir, various other experiments, and ultimately, it's where he was kind of driving himself a bit to madness, crushed under the weight of his very important charge, and obviously vulnerable to suggestion. Now, Ian hinted to me that there will be fairly big lore drops here, which is of course exciting. And from what I saw, the bosses include the Sundered Flame Leader, a big Elementium-bound dragon, and some other pretty neat-looking things. There's also a new crop of tier sets, and I don't think I can show you all of them because they were from the, like, not recordable presentation, but I think there's some in the press kit. The TLDR, I would say, is they looked really nice. Like, they actually looked like full-on traditional class sets, which I thought was just really cool. So, a thumbs up for the tiers so far. Now, Mythic, once again, will be a simultaneous launch with Heroic. Overall then, I'm fairly excited. I thought that Vault of the Incarnates was an absolutely wonderful raid from top to bottom, and that does mean that any further slices of our raids are just something that I'm excited about. As Ian kind of talks about in my interview, a lot of those lessons from Sepulchre of the first ones have certainly been learnt, and I think that their evolving raid design is in a good direction. He spoke to me of things like continuing their desire to have more interesting boss rooms and boss fights that feel like a little bit more integrated with the actual environment. So, good shit, basically. But let's leave the zone. The Dragon Isles. So one thing that can suck about patches is how patches just kill the rest of the world, right? And it's not really like that here, because there will be new campaign quests across the Dragon Isles, as well as new chapters in the Blue Dragon and tier storylines. That's, of course, in addition to the campaign that takes place down in Zaralek, so it's nice to see that they're not leaving the Isles behind. There are also Fryak Assaults, which basically do seem to be very similar to Primalist Assaults, but they are themed around the Fire Incarnate, and they, of course, will let you get better gear and weapons that will all have a bit of a fiery theme. Not exactly sure in mechanics. Let's hope that they are a little bit advanced from the current Primal Storms, which are the sort of thing that I know a lot of people who view this channel won't really have done much or ever because they're doing Mythic Plus or Dungeons, but I do hear from a lot of people that actually know they appreciate that world content existing, and that is the way that they upgrade their characters. Dragon riding then. Dragon riding is active in the new zone, which is one feature. You can fly down there without a loading screen. We've also got a 5th type of core dragon to be unlocked. It's this one that looks sort of inspired by the Cloud Serpents. This actually was data mined a while back, which does mean that we've got a fair idea of the options and things that we'll have for it. So basically, new mount to get, along with all of the unlocks and cosmetics and things. Again, just flying in a new patch zone from day one, I think big hell yes to that. Even thinking of Zereth Mortis, like, man, when we could fly, it certainly felt better doing anything in that zone. There will be new dragon riding races, new glyphs, and new abilities. Don't expect massive things from the new abilities, but do expect just the sorts of additional power that you would want if you happen to be flying around in a big cave. Okay, Season 2 then. Good news here. Not mega surprising, but good news. So it does return with the other 4 Dragonflight dungeons, plus the Freehold, Vortex, Pinnacle, Underrot, and Neltharion's Lair. But what is interesting, and Ian will speak more to that in the interview tomorrow, it is that the core Mythic Plus system is seeing updates. Not exactly what some people want, but they are rejigging affixes. They seem to be doing quite a lot of work on affixes. I think they've also quite clearly seen people's feedback on dungeons like the Ruby Life Pools, and they are actually, and Ian confirmed this to me, they are looking through the other 4 Dragonflight dungeons, and they're actually pruning some of them, because they want these dungeons to be fun when played in Mythic Plus, not overwhelming with, you know, so much signal that it all feels like noise. That was definitely great to hear. Again, more details from the man himself in the interview tomorrow. Next big feature, cross-faction guilds. Yeah, these are in. And that's basically that, right? You can quite simply just invite a member of the opposite faction to your currently existing guild. And that really just is how it works. And with this, the Hall of Fame is now going to be merged. It will no longer be split into Alliance and Horde, which always was a little bit awkward because the Horde Hall of Fame would fill up, and then the Alliance one would be barely a quarter of the way there. Of course, if this merged Hall of Fame means that the Hall of Fame will be filled quicker, then I suppose that does mean that Cross-Realm Mythic will also open up a little bit earlier. Okay, some miscellaneous things then as I kind of go down the main feature list. We are getting a major enough class balance wave. We are getting more updates to edit mode and the UI functionality, and we're also getting level 70 heirlooms. Okay, let's head back to the roadmap and basically sum together what to expect from World of Warcraft this year. Right then, patch 10.1.5 is next up after 10.1. It's going to have a mega dungeon, world events, plus content and system updates, which is just a big bucket that could basically hold anything. This is likely when we would see maybe time walking, weekly events, and other systems updates to be handled. It's kind of similar for 10.1.7. It does mention a refresh of holiday events, though, which would be pretty cool if it happened before Brewfest and Hallow's End. I think those could be really fun. Now, if you put all of this on a calendar then, assuming a, let's just say mid-June 10.1 release, and then an August, October, and December release for patch 10.1.5, 10.1.7, and 10.2, then you sort of have maybe 10.2 landing in December, maybe its raid kicks off in January or something, or maybe they're actually able to get that patch a little bit quicker, late November or early enough in December that they can just go ahead, obviously having a simultaneous Mythic launch, and open up raiding in December. You know, they could compress some of those timelines to even look at them like 10.07 is dropping just 2 months after 10.05. But do remember that February is itself a shorter month. So all of that bodes quite well for their ability to make the game. Now, to go to an even bigger picture, BlizzCon is likely going to be November this year, okay? And yes, a real BlizzCon was confirmed. So at that, we will see expansion 11.0, the 10th expansion, be revealed. A fun tidbit, WoW's 10th expansion will be in the same year as the franchise's 30th anniversary and World of Warcraft's 20th anniversary. So, hey, Blizz, if you're ever to do something massive like a world revamp, kind of, you know, 11.0 would be the time to do that. But anyway, likely then, this new expansion would come out November of 2024. And it would be announced after we've seen the story of 10.1.5 and 10.1.7. So yeah, if 11.0 is November 2024, then Dragonflight would actually still have time for some new content. Now, if we're to assume that we get a greatest hits patch like BFA Season 4 that's maybe 4 months long, then there is actually room for 1 to 2 minor content patches after patch 10.2 or a single major content patch after 10.2. But the nice thing is that either way, there will be something every like 2 to 3 months from now until the new expansion drops. That's a bit weird, right? I mean, it's kind of bonkers compared to the past. I mean, goddamn, that basically does mean that the you know, the traditional WoW content drought should well and truly be dead. And if you're worried about this actually being something that they can pull off, I don't want to sort of ruined the interview with Ian, but he did basically say, like, I asked him, like, listen, what's the team doing different? How's the content being the way that it is? And I think he gave a fairly satisfactory answer to that would explain overall their content plans. Now, that being said, while this is all good, it is what they need to do, because in the current very competitive gaming market, you just can't get away with a WoDs to Legion or MOP to WoD style content route. So overall then, Dragonflight, I think, has maybe undersold some expectations. They've pretty much said that in their earnings call, but I don't think that's because Dragonflight is bad. I think it's because Dragonflight doesn't immediately have a super grappling like theme or story or fantasy like Legion, WoD, or BFA, as advertised, had. Plus, people are still rightly very skeptical about the game. So Blizzard basically just needs a fuckload of content and just the content to keep on coming. They basically need to just stay the course of delivering like they have been so far. And then, you know, for 11-0, I think they need something to be hype as fuck. They need galloping abs, sweaty muscles, big axes, big blue woman, Liam O'Brien. I don't know. The usual break glass to get subs go up. Just that this time around, they'll be backing that up with a content cadence that can actually retain customers. And if you were worried about their ability to still pull off that kind of traditional Blizzard hype-ish, exciting thing, I would at least say that if you've, like me, wanted a little bit more of the core Warcraft tone, the Bane quest in 10.17 does actually give you that. The incarnate humanoid forms that I saw, those do show the Blizzard's art team can still pull off what feels like a big, cool WoW villain. Like a Ridderkrond actually seriously does look like a cool villain. He kind of looks cooler than Deathwing, to be honest. So overall then, that is it. My interview with Ian will drop tomorrow, and I'm sure with everybody else, there'll be a hell of a lot of info coming out. I think this is pretty damn good news. So, happy days, and if you would like some video game to play from now till then, of course, you know, consider playing The Pale Beyond. It's currently 90% on Steam, and most of the things that you know, had us drop down a little bit to 90% have since been fixed, and now we're just working on how we can make the game better. Maybe can we add new content in the future? We're thinking about those things as well. So your support's been amazing. People have been loving the game. We've had people crying. We've had people literally saying that the writing in Pale is like reminding them of why they are into interactive media, which is crazy. Just an amazing response. So if you want to check out The Pale Beyond, you can do so with the Steam link down below. And with that said, I will see you tomorrow for my interview with Ian Hazzikostas and more content to come after that. Have a brilliant day. See you next time.